And bringing our conversation back to like building a community. So like when you were in college, was it a conscious decision on your part to like find people who were like-minded, who were enthusiastic, who you kind of resonated with, or did it just happen by chance? And in like in connection with that question, I wanted to ask you, why is it so important for us to build a community as international students in college?
Okay, I'm gonna answer the second question first. I mean,
Okay, great.
okay, so I believe in networking. So in any business, in anything that you're doing, networking is the most important thing that you do.
Right.
Our first orientation, our dean, Miss Elizabeth Daly, who run Paramount Pictures for 10 years and comes in with like millions of years of experience, said like, look at the person next to you. There's other people you're going to be working with for the rest of your life, and that was profound. So, you kind of, she's basically like, oh, okay, yeah, because we're in a film school. And then after this, we're going to be in the industry. So, a writer needs a director needs a cinematographer needs, a camera operator. And, that everybody, we're intertwined. Everything that we do is linked.
Right.
So I think it was in college that this idea came. And then I also kind of felt I was kind of I don't know. I've always, because I get along with people, and then I grew up also playing organized sports. Where you have like 25 kids in your team. Those are my brothers. You know what I mean? Like, again, if somebody touched one of us, everybody is helps you. So we had that community. No one could mess with us. Like when we were growing up, that team got your back. You know what I mean? So I quickly realized that I didn't have anybody who got my back. Like if something happened to me, I needed someone to even call home to say like, he's all right. He's in a hospital, but he's all right. Just tell my mom and dad, this happened, or my brother and sisters, this happened. So I and that was so important to me. And I had to also give back to that. You know what I mean? So, and I was very conscious about this. I knew the importance of building a community in terms of, God forbid something happens, standing for your rights. If a union is a lot stronger than somebody trying to make a case on their own. So that community becomes handy, right? So you do it for livelihood, you do it for business reasons, you do it in general because we are social beings. And I've heard crazy stories where the international students who are not as differ like we are, like going and talk to people and then to put themselves out there, because of the language barrier maybe, or like somebody would laugh at them because they didn't understand a certain thing.
Or like a joke that was cultural, like for instance, even for me, like I didn't understand some of the American jokes and I was like, oh, okay, and then I just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
but you go with the flow, and then I quickly understood that it's okay not to know stuff, and I kind of also told myself, hey, I'm gonna be easy on you. You know what I mean? It's like, as long as you're trying, you're gonna get stuff wrong, and then try. So I pushed myself to fix my accent and speak. I know I was good at school. I know I would always be all right at school. But that wasn't enough for me because I had to be also, sitting with them and talking about life. And then I wanted to be invited to those parties that they go to because that's networking.
Exactly.
And the next time, I wanted to do something, like I needed to call people who can show up for me. And without knowing it, I built a really, really big community of people, which to this day, you know, we know, and we actually made other connections, and you know, it's crazy. But I would say to whoever is listening right now and who's going to embark on a journey as an international student to go, it is the most important thing that you need to do is build a community. Forget what it is. You are an ambassador. As an ambassador of your culture, you teach people what your culture is. You know, there's gonna be, you know, 3 people out of 5 that didn't want to learn about anything because that's their problem. It's not yours.
No.
Or they don't like you, or they don't understand you, or they don't want to hear about you or about whatever you're saying, which is perfectly fine. Those 2 people who hear you, they will connect you to other things, and then you become, you know, that. So it is so important to build a community and to have a network. And we I mean, I was in the study group, you know, and like group assignments, and I became really good at that. And by the way, like organizing and being a leader. I didn't know that, you know, I had qualities of leadership, which I later on became. You know, I was leading like 200 and 300 people on a you know, certain projects. But when we were just going out and doing something like 3 and 4 people, you know, and I knew that I could commit to something. I knew that I could communicate. And I knew that I was willing to help, you know, with anything. So building a community does not come easily, you know. You have to put in a little bit of work. You have to put in the sacrifice a little bit. But it will pay you back 100-fold.
Exactly. No, that's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, as you were talking, I was also reflecting back on my own experience, and I, you know, 100% would say, if it wasn't, you know, for the friends that I had in college, I don't think I would graduate, because the amount of support that I was able to get, it was not only just the friendship, but it was the emotional support, you know, all sort of like the, you know, whenever, even just then, to give you an example, it doesn't have to be something big, but if they come across a, you know, an internship or a job opportunity and it fits me, they'll just send it to me, you know, like finding, you know, having those kinds of people in your life who look out for you, you know, and then when you're having some sort of challenge, you discuss and then you go through it together. I think that's, you know, apart from the, you know, the, I mean, you're there, you know, to excel, to graduate, yes, but there's also a social life, a social component to being an international student. And that's when I saw like the importance of having, you know, people around you who love you, who support you, and who have your back at the end of the day, you know. And I didn't realize that it was as important until I was in it, you know, because when I was, you know, in high school or growing up in Ethiopia, I think I took it for granted, like my friends or because everyone is the same here, you know. We went to, you know, we had uniforms, we were all girls. And so, but when you go to somewhere new, you tend to stick to people who care for you, you know, who look out for you. And then, as you said, you end up building a network of friends who have similar interests. Even now, you know, me doing this podcast, the people that I'm interviewing are friends that I know from college, you know, who want to support the, you know, the project that I have. And that means a lot to me, you know. If I didn't know them through college or through a different experience, I wouldn't even have this podcast in the first place.
I would add onto this, you know, because I've lived, as I'm in Virginia now. I spend most of my years in California, but there, you know, the idea of living or working or going to school in proximity of, you know, a larger number of people from your background has its own benefit, and it also has its drawbacks, right? For example, if everything that you do is talking your own language and hang out with somebody from your home country, there is a certain disadvantage to that, because then you're not practicing the English language. Not that it is that important. It's important for you to communicate, because later on, if you are going to be working in any environment that requires a different language than your home language, then you have a skill set that people are going to be looking for to hire you or to go to business with you. So, for example, there are like a lot of people that I know been here 20, 30 years and still does not have command of the English language, right? And their every day is kind of revolves around going to Habesha spot for food, living with Habesha guys that from the same country, and then when they even for entertainment going to the Habesha spots, all that stuff, right? And so you do that multiple times in a year. Over years it accumulates, and I feel like that there's so many things to learn that are out there. You miss out.
Exactly.
And if you are an international student, you should underline, circle, and highlight the word international, because you are not there to be friends only from people from the same country. You know what I mean? You have to extend yourself out there. So you have to learn. And also, as it's not an easy thing. We're not just, I don't know if I was fully conscious while I was going to school that what I was doing is going to help me one day. I needed that degree from my parents, because they wanted me to go to school. You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
I'm going to have this degree and they're going to be off my back. So I could do everything else that I want to do. Right. But then again, the things that the leadership skills that I learned, the communication skills that I acquired, the friendship that I built, and the know-how that I have helped me. And the second part of my post, education, where I have to work in this big institutions, and be part of a group of really highly motivated and committed people. And I had to match that. It's like, even though part of me is saying, I don't need this, I'm going home anyway. It's like, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna be doing this. I didn't. I kind of, I refused. And then, for example, I worked during spring break sometimes, and then other times I went to another country with friends. And instead of going home, most people go home for spring breaks, or Christmas breaks and all of that. No, but I wanted to see the world. You know what I mean? So I started going to Europe. I started going to Latin America, and I learned some more. Now I'm like, I love it. Like, it's like, this is great. There's home is great, but also there's stuff out there that you need to experience. And it took me 8 years to get back. You know what I mean? After I came here, I said I was gonna go back in 4 years, 4 years more. But in those 4 years, I became a professional. And then once I came home and I stayed, and then I saw that what I studied was not compatible with what was happening in the country. So I kind of said to myself, all right, I need to get to do more. I need to learn. I have more skills, so I can come back one day and help in a better way to set up the industry in a proper way, and using the language. So, and instead of being home and then working on just a very small thing, and I had to go back and then learn more so I can come back and affect larger people.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm also thinking about, as we're talking about, the positive sides of, building a community to help you, to sustain you, to just, to help you even survive the situation that you're in. But I want to look at the other side. Can you think of a situation where, being part of a community can inhibit you somehow from expressing yourself fully, or what's the other side of the coin?
I don't know if, well, what I was trying to mention, that in being part of a community that does not share your ideas of what it is that you want to do? What do you want to
Right.
learn?
Mm.
What do you, how do you want to express yourself?
Right.
For
Right.
example, our culture is very inhibiting,
Yeah. Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I mean, to a
Very.
point where, like we didn't mix even with African Americans,
Yeah.
you
There's a
know?
big divide. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, yes, that's why I'm saying, like, I think the community that you build
Mm.
has to have a common interest. And
Mm.
that common interest cannot be home country or color of your skin or the language that you speak. So
Right.
that's not the kind of community I'm talking about.
Right.
The community that you have to build has to be inclusive,
Mm.
of different people, different
Right.
cultures,
Right.
different point of views.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to grow. So, I mean,
Mm.
you go to university, you go to college, the main thing that you do is critical thinking. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that's the whole thing. So
Yep.
there's a problem, and can you look at it in different angles, and then can you come up with a solution?
Yep.
Can it have multiple answers? Can it also be done in a different way, and all that?
Yep.
So being a critical thinker is, to me, being someone who allows himself or herself to be exposed to different things,
Mm-hmm.
whether we agree with it or not.
Right.
So when I say this, some people, we have this notion of spending more time with other cultures would erode our own culture,
Mm. Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
actually the opposite.
It is. Yeah.
Our culture is so robust that it actually,
Yeah.
my friends, know how to say endemine denanish, they know how to
Exactly.
say, injera, like they call
Yeah.
kayot, spicy meat,
Oh my
all of
God.
that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. It rubs off
I,
on them. Yep.
very much so, because
Yeah.
they're they're attracted to it.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
we have so many good traits in our
Yeah.
culture, that the
Yeah.
way we care for each other, and
Mm.
how humble we are, and to some points, like, we actually bend over backwards to help other people, which
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
really good quality that I like, that
Right.
we have as Ethiopians. So
Mm-hmm.
um obviously, if the community that you are a part of is into things that
Mm-hmm.
um gonna take you down, so don't do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like, uh there was a lot of things that I was exposed to, drugs and all kind
Mm.
of things when I was
Yep.
in college, but that wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, like, I had my eyes on, it's just that I
Yeah.
gotta graduate. And, like, I was taking over 20 units
Whoa.
for a
That's a lot.
semester.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I and I was working at one point. I
Mm-hmm.
was working, actually, graveyard, like, at night, where everybody went to work. I mean, to bed. I worked for a year and a half, like, and I slept only 3 hours in a day, and then had 21 credit unit hours that I was doing that year.
Oh my God.
So,
Oh my
you
God.
know, you
Wow.
have to kind of, like, I was in a hurry. I want to
Yeah.
get that degree.
Yeah.
I want to start my life.
Yep.
And I want to prove my parents that I'm a serious guy. I could do
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So you can. It's also a time of discovery, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I learned so much. I gotta admit, I never made my bed when I left home, and then
Yeah.
living by myself, kind of
Yeah.
realized that if I don't do it, nobody's gonna do it. You know what I mean? So I started
Exactly.
started
Yeah.
cleaning up my room, and I'm like, that was the
Mm-hmm.
first time I'd done it since I left.
Yeah.
Ethiopia. I never had to do it in Ethiopia. I
Exactly.
never had to cook food in Ethiopia, right?
Yeah.
So
Especially as a boy growing up, even the culture is
exactly,
not. Yeah.
exactly. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
For
So
sure. Yeah.
you kind of the self-discovery part is
Mm.
really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I love going to school, so I had a blast.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did, honestly. And I'm sure, a lot of students who are listening in kind of would relate with our experience, because
Yeah.
I feel like, we don't live in isolation of other people. Like, some way, somehow, you know, without you even thinking about it, you're going to meet someone, you're going to make friends, you're going to, you know, interact with people, even if you're shy, you know, even if you're not that outspoken, you're still going to make a group of friends in college, because otherwise I don't think how you could survive without that.
No, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Is there an aspect of like building a community that we haven't touched upon that you want to talk about?
Yes, and that is doing community service.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Doing free work, volunteering, and being an intern, an apprentice. That's not only that it will help you understand what commitment means, because as young people, the one thing that we were not good at was commitment, right? We don't commit to nothing except it's good times, maybe, you know what I mean? It's like there's a party, like, yes, I'm going to that, you know. Exactly. Other than that, you know, it's like I learned by giving my time that I was helping a lot of people. And they were helping me. I was learning as well, you know. So I you know, volunteered at school. I went into a community outreach program that the school had. I would take young kids in tours, because I never got that when I was growing up. We never had to tour university, you know what I mean? Like,
of course,
the only time that I saw Addis Ababa University was for matric fatana. That was it. And I was like crazy, like, why didn't they show it to us? Like, would have loved, you know, to have come and having a school visits and all of that. And I also learned that, though I come from a poor country, there are other people who are poorer than I am. I was at that point that needed help, you know. So that was one of like the best things I've done. And then I was pain in the butt, like going and asking people, like, hey, do you have something, you know, for me? Like, can I come, you know, just hang out or like work on your project? And I did that a lot. A good thing, like, I know how to drive, I know my way around. Or had, you know, driver's license and stuff like that when I was in Ethiopia. So I was you know, so ballsy about like going, and it's like, hey, just give me the address, I'll find it, I'll come.
Right.
You know, especially in Los Angeles, like everywhere you go, you have to drive. You know, the buses, the public transportation is terrible. So you needed a car. So I saved money. I got a car, and then, you know, I kind of just basically, you know, gave myself to this people, like, because I wanted to learn. So and then that became also a community. And then later on, when I graduated from college and started working, and my status had grown, and I'm in a position now to hire people, I went back into those communities. And for example, one of the parts that I got involved was to kind of show inner city kids, you know, going to school is pretty cool, you know. And our school had a really famous American football team. We still do. So everybody knew our school. It has certain prestige. But other than that, you know, the school by itself is also a top ranked school. You know, you could actually, you know, become something else other than an athlete. So I was volunteering in a program that basically was educating or teaching kids how to become filmmakers. There are poor kids from the inner cities of Los Angeles, where, you know, their parents are on drugs and stuff like that. And then so I volunteered as a student, and then later on, when I became, someone who can actually like affect change, I went to
Yeah.
that community and I started hiring these kids,
Yeah.
and then created actually an income
Yeah.
and a life for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that was one of the things. And had I not did voluntary work
Mm,
and apprentice work and all that, I would not have learned that. So I
exactly.
think
Yeah.
start giving your time, because you have a ton
Mm,
of it while you're going to school,
mm,
and and you learn
yeah.
a lot, and then that's also part of building a community.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I mean, that's like, the most important thing, like volunteering and giving your time to someone else, because when
Hmm.
you become, part of a community,
Hmm.
I think the motivation just automatically happens to give back to the community.
Right,
It doesn't have to be the community you're part of. It could be a different kind
right.
of community, but
Hmm. Hmm.
the satisfaction you get, by giving back, is something that you can't find anywhere else. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm
Hmm.
sure it must have felt, really, really nice to give back to the community.
Oh, absolutely,
The kids.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're ending our conversation, what advice do you have
Mm,
for current international students or
mhm.
prospective international students who are dealing with the topic of building a community?
Um, just be open.
Mm.
It's, no one is gonna, I mean, at best, what other communities do is change your mind, and it opens your mind. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because we
Exactly.
have this, as international student, I had a lot of built-in biases,
Mm. Yeah.
culturally,
Yep.
from my family,
Yep.
from the community of soccer players that I was a part of.
Yep.
And that sort of bias um, could have inhibited me from becoming friends with other people,
Mm.
becoming part of a
Yeah.
community, because,
Yep.
this belief, or they believe in that, or we're not the same, we're not, whatever. So have an open mind
Mm.
for whatever it is. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you don't have to accept it. But
Yep.
have an open mind. At least learn about it. At
Yep.
least learn about it to say no to it. You know, don't just
Mm.
blankly say no because that's not what you were told about it. For
Yeah.
example, like I was told, don't go to certain places because they're really dangerous. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, dangerous for who though? It's like
Mm.
I
Mm.
I'm not part of, a gang. I'm not
Yeah.
part of this or that. So for
Yeah.
me, I have no fear going to this
Right.
kind of places, because I had to go
Yeah.
and experience it. And then once I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, actually, I love living here. And then part of the time I actually
Yeah.
lived in that community,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people understood who I was. They
Right.
got
Right.
me that, it's like there's working people
Yeah.
who really are trying to, better
Mm.
themselves, right?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Everybody's thing is the same. So,
Yeah.
and have fun. That's
Mm.
another thing. Like I
Yeah.
had a blast in college. And I
Great.
tell people
Yeah.
like I would do it again if I have
Mm.
if I would,
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
and so the reason that I had a lot of fun is because I was open to
Mm.
pretty much everything. I was
Right.
open
Right.
to meeting other people. I was
Mm-hmm.
open to letting people come into my life
Mm-hmm.
and learn about me, learn about my country, learn
Yeah.
about my culture. And
Yeah.
then I was eager to learn about their country and their
Mm-hmm.
culture and
Yep.
all of that. So I pretty much I had at one point I had Italian, Indian, Pakistani, uh, black, Los Angeles person. Like I had all these people as roommates.
Right.
You know what I mean? We
Right.
were like, we were that community, and
Exactly. Yeah.
and we just, and each of them introduced me to
Mm-hmm.
their cultures, and I became,
Yep.
so in love with their
Yeah.
culture, and
Mm-hmm.
end up going and visiting. It's because
Yeah.
of the Italian friends that I had, and went visited Italy. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
Exactly. Exactly.
so I would say open mind and
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Yeah.
Be an open mind and then have fun, because school is hard as it is.
It is hard.
So
Yeah.
you need to have fun, but
Yeah.
not forgetting your schoolwork. Do your work.
It's the most important thing. Yep.
Yeah. I came in at 3.5 and then I got out at 3.7. So I did all right,
You did okay.
I'm okay. And I had fun doing it too.
Great. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I would just reiterate what you just said. Having an open mind is really important. Because, you have to experience those things yourself. Just, you can't just believe something just because someone told you. You have to find out for yourself. You might end up liking something you thought you don't. And so I would, I agree with all of the points that you raised, and having fun is also as important. So that's great. Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this podcast and for sharing your story. I really do appreciate it. And so, as just the housekeeping, please make sure to go follow the official Instagram page at Internationalie by Ruth, that is LIE, and send an email with your questions and concerns about being an international student to internationaliebyruth@gmail.com. Thank you again for tuning in today. I hope you have a lovely week ahead of you, and take care of yourselves, everyone. Bye.
All right. Bye. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.